Good morning.
Om Sadashiva
Samaram
Samarambham
Shankaracharya
Shankaracharya
Asmadacharya
Paryantam
Paryantam
Vande
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 Guru
Guru
Paramparam
Paramparam
Om Sahanau
Om
Bhavatu
Sahanavatu
Sahanau
Sahano
Bhunaktu
Punaktu
Sahaviryam
Sahaviryam
Bhavavahai
Bhavavahai
Tejasvinavadhitamastu
Navaditamastu
Ma
Ma
Vidvishavahai
Vidvishavahai
Om
Om
Shanti
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 Shanti Om Tat Sat, Om Namah Shivaya. Good morning again, everybody.
Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah
So we
Shivaya.
were at the
Om Namah Shivaya.
14th verse, and we will chant that again, the 14th verse. So please unmute yourself. Shri Bhagavan Vacha
Shri
Bhagavanuvacha
Bhagavanuvacha
Matra Sparshastu Kaunteya
Matra
Sparshastu
Sparshastakanteya
Kaunteya
Shitoshna Sukha Dukkadaha
Shitoshna Sukha Dukkada
Agama Paino Nityaha
Aino Anitya
Tam Stitikshasva Bharata
Bharata.
Okay, so in the last class, we talked about the first line, and I had said that Matra Sparshastu Kaunteya literally means that the sense organs are interacting with the sense objects, and this is the nature of the sense organs and the sense objects. And when they interact, there are experiences which are produced like Shitaha, cold, Ushnaha, heat, Sukhaha, happiness, and Dukkhaha, which is the sorrow. And therefore it says Daha. Matra Sparshaha is Daha. The contacts of the sense organs with the sense objects is the giver of these experiences. And we were about to begin the next line. So first Krishna says that, hey Arjuna, whenever the sense organs contact the sense objects, there are experiences. The contact is the giver of the experiences, and the contacts cannot be avoided. Since every time you open your eyes and are in the world, you are interacting with sense objects only. And therefore, whenever there are contacts with the sense objects, there will be experiences. And then he says, Agama apainaha. All the experiences, agama, they come. And apainaha, they go. They are all subject to arrival and departure. All experiences are temporary. They come and they go. And therefore, we should not hold on. So there is a saying, Agate swagatam kuryat. Whatever comes, you should do swagatam. You should welcome. Whatever comes, you welcome. Kachantam na nivarayat. Whatever goes, don't hold on. So agate swagatam kuryat. Kachantam na nivarayat. Should not hold on to whatever is going. Always welcome what is coming. So what does it mean? Prepare your mind so that whatever experiences come in life, you welcome them, right? They could be good experiences, they could be bad experiences. But why should you welcome them? Because you know they are the results of your prarabdha karma only. And with every experience, whether it be good or painful, some part of your prarabdha karma is being exhausted, and therefore welcome them. Similarly, when they go away, don't hold on. So the agate swagatam kuryat can be taken as welcoming the painful experiences, knowing that they are going to exhaust my prarabdha karma. And gachantam na nivarayet can be taken as not holding on to pleasurable experiences, because Pleasurable experiences are also part of karma. And when they go away, again the same understanding should be there that they are exhausted. Some prarabdha karma has been exhausted, and that is why the pleasurable part is going away. The problem is what? We, we don't apply this uniformly. We are prepared to welcome pleasurable experiences, and we think, yes, they should go on coming. More and more should come. I should always get experiences which make me happy. And when they come, I am not prepared to let them go. But understanding is that they will definitely go. And in reverse, there are certain things which we don't want to come, right? Some painful experiences we don't want. Nobody wants painful experiences. And therefore, we don't want them, but they keep on coming. And so Krishna says, Agama apayanaha, they come and they go, hey Arjuna, which means what? That they are anityaha. They are not permanent. They are all impermanent. So Agama apayanaha here is a visheshanam, adjective to what? It's an adjective to which word?
Experiences.
Matra sparshaha. Right. So Agama apayanaha is a visheshanam to matra sparshaha. These contacts will come and they will go. And Shankara uses this adjective that Agama Painaha is the reason that Krishna says it is Anitya. It's logical, right? Because it comes and it goes, it is not permanent at all, it's temporary. And Shankara says this is the reason. So such a usage, I mean, of course, this is not really relevant for this class, but for those of you who have an interest in grammar, English or Sanskrit, the usage of an adjective to indicate a reason for drawing a conclusion, it's called Hetu Garbha, right? So Hetu Garbha Visheshanam. So this Agama Painaha is a Hetu Garbha Visheshanam. The reason why Krishna has drawn the conclusion that it is Anitya. So in the previous sloka, he talked about Nitya Atma. Okay. Here he is talking about what? Anitya Anatma. And because it is Anitya, because it comes and it goes, Tan Titikshasva He Bharata. The Titikshasva is, may you develop endurance. Tan, to them, to those experiences. Tan indicates those experiences. Titikshasva He Bharata. May you develop endurance, tolerance for all those kind of experiences. How will you develop? By meditating upon the fact that they will come and they will go. May you develop inner strength, physical strength and mental strength. May you increase your physical immunity so that external diseases don't attack you. At the same time, more importantly, may you increase your mental immunity. And we all know that more than physical, mental immunity has to be more powerful, because physical immunity, there is a limitation. Because of Shadvikara, there is a limitation. What is Shadvikara?
The six changes which are
Asti
physical.
jayate,
Changiness.
jayate,
Asti
viparinamate,
jayate, but viparinamate, apakshiyate, and then
Okay. So anyway, I suggest you look up Tataboda again, so you will know the sequence also. Those are the changes which the physical body will go through. And the last of them is Nashyati, is death. Before that is Apakshiyate, decay, disease is there. And therefore, body cannot be, you might do your yogasanas, right? You might do your 100 Surya Namaskaras every day and Shirshasana for 2 hours every day and all those things you will do. But there is a limitation beyond which the physical body cannot be extended. A physical body will definitely decrease in strength and give you problems as you grow older. But the same thing need not apply to the mental, to the mind. So your mental strength must be much stronger, because when your physical body is weaker, at its weakest, just before death, if your mental strength is high, the prospect of your impending death of the body. I'm consciously saying death of the body, not your death, which is what we normally think. But Krishna says that you never die, right? And therefore, understand that your body will die. So, therefore, it will not trouble. Therefore, mental immunity, mental strength must be increased in our life. Okay, what does this matra sparshaha give you? As I said, daha. Daha is the giver. Da is to give. So it gives shitaha, ushnaha, cold, pain, pleasure, all this it gives. And again, remember that when you say shitaha, ushnaha, we should not think that heat and cold, they are always unpleasant or always pleasant. Heat in May, in the month of May in Delhi or Ahmedabad is definitely not pleasant. But the same heat in January, middle of the night in Delhi is going to be pleasant, right? Similarly, cold is not always unpleasant. In the Arctic, cold in the middle of the night is definitely unpleasant. But in summer in Delhi, cold is welcome. Therefore, heat and cold is Shita Ushnaha are taken as a indicator, lakshanam, for experiences which can have dual nature. Experience being one, your reaction can be different to it depending upon your circumstances. But sukha dukha are different. Pain is definitely unpleasant all the time. And pleasure is definitely pleasant all the time. It doesn't matter whether you're in Delhi or whether you're in Siberia. Your reaction to heat and cold may be different, but to pain and pleasure, it is the same in both the places. So that's why these two adjectives are used, two sets of adjectives. As I said earlier, one of them also means physical and one means mental. So the nature of anatma, Krishna is saying, is subject to constant change. And therefore, understand that situations in your life are not always going to be favorable. That is the meaning of constant change. And also, situations in your life will not always be unfavorable because that will also change. And therefore, there is a mantra which you use whenever you are in any, bad situation. You should say that yes, this will change. When you are in a good situation, you will say that this will also change. This has to be understood properly. Okay, so there's a story. I don't know if you've heard it. It's a very famous story. You may, have heard it. So there was this king who, was a great king. He had a kingdom and he was happy ruling it. The praja, the citizens were happy. And one day he called his Pandit, the wise man, and told him that, I have been reflecting upon this life of mine and I'm very happy right now. But there's no guarantee that I will be happy in future. So his wise man said, yes, that is true. There will no guarantee. So he said, can you give me something if I look, which will remind me always of this fact? It should be a message which I can use at any time. So the Pandit said, okay. He came back next day with a small diamond ring. And he said, oh king, this diamond ring is for you. And below the diamond is a message which is engraved in the gold, which you should not open. The diamond was openable. You could pull out the ring and put it back. So he said, oh king, you should not open this diamond because it will lose its value. Only when you find the situation is so bad that it looks as if you are, about to die or be destroyed permanently, when no other alternative is available in front of you, then at that time, open the diamond ring and look below on the what is engraved in the gold. That message will, give you a lot of relief. So king said, fine. And since he was a good and generous king, he rewarded this Pandit, and he didn't open the ring at all. He didn't open that particular thing. A few years later, he was surrounded by enemy kingdoms, enemies from the kingdoms around him. And he fought valiantly, but he lost the war. And the enemies invaded his kingdom, took over his throne, and they wanted to kill him. So they sent a few people after him to kill him. So the king ran and ran and ran, and the enemies were following him. Finally, this king was tired. He had lost his horse. He was alone, nobody with him. So he was on a little lonely little road under a small rock, and he was hiding when he heard this enemy horses. This was the end of the road, right? The enemy horses were coming. And then he thought, this is the end anyway, because once they find me, they'll certainly kill me. And I don't see any escape. So he's wondering what to do. When he looked, suddenly there was little sunlight, and from his finger that diamond dazzled a bit, this little shined a bit. Suddenly he remembered, yes, this wise man had told me that when I see no other alternative, then I should open the ring. So he said, this looks like that appropriate thing, appropriate time. So he pulled out the diamond ring and stared at it. Underneath was written, this too shall pass. This also will go away. He took a deep breath, closed the ring, and sat absolutely quiet. Here he took the wise man's decision as a judgment. Yes, it shall pass. And therefore he sat quietly over there. The soldiers searched around the place, didn't find him, and went away. Then the king, he wandered a bit and finally found the place where his wife was from, the nation where his wife was from. He went to his father-in-law and explained the whole situation. The father-in-law was also a powerful king. So he said, yes, we will rectify this. And then they gathered an army, a new, very strong army, assisted with his father-in-law. And the king went back and defeated his enemies, and he was back on the throne. So several months later, he was back on the throne, and he was thinking, the wise man was so right. This bad time, it passed. And he was very happily sitting back, enjoying himself, when again a little sunlight hit the ring. And then he remembered what? What did he remember?
This too
This
shall
too
pass.
shall pass.
So, message is what? Favorable or unfavorable. Things will change all the time. And that is the message to be understood. Not that it's good and it's bad, but whether it is good or bad, it will change. What is important that I should not be disturbed. And you can notice that Krishna does not say you should avoid these contracts. Matra sparshaha cannot be avoided. What he is saying is understand them. And what we need to follow from here is this: most of our problems are like this, matra sparshaha. They need to be understood. They are the cause of disturbance only because they have not been understood. Once understood, they cease to be the cause of disturbance. Right? And Shankara raises a very subtle point here. He says, why does Krishna mention Shitoshna and Sukha Dukha separately? He could simply have said, Matra Sparshasha, it gives you Sukha and Dukha. Why add heat and cold to complicate matters? So this is, I just explained why it was. Sukha Dukha arises where? In the mind. They are not intrinsic properties of heat and cold. Which is what I explained, right? If Sukha, if happiness or sorrow was an intrinsic property of heat and cold, then heat would always give dukkham or sukham, and cold would always give dukkham. That's why I said, I took the example of Siberia and May in Delhi. It depends on the circumstances. The same heat, which is a source of discomfort in Delhi, where is the discomfort? It is in my mind. The heat is outside me, but the dukkham, the discomfort, is in my mind. But that same heat, if I am stuck in the Siberian desert in winter, that same heat will create the very opposite emotion in my mind of great comfort. Therefore, sukham is always welcome. Dukkham is always unwelcome. What triggers the emotion in my mind is the environment. And therefore, he says that is why they are mentioned in connection with titiksha. Titiksha is connected to sukha dukkha, not shitoshna. Right? Titiksha, tolerance, he says, is to be connected to happiness and sorrow, not to heat and cold. Right? Some people interpret this as saying that you should ensure that your body does not react to heat and cold too much. So that's stressing it, because extreme heat will burn your body, extreme cold will kill your body. But yes, mild changes, one should not start shouting and screaming. But if you start shouting and screaming, that is again connected to sukha dukkham, not to heat and cold. And that's exactly the point that Shankara makes. Right? And he says, hey Bharata. So Bharata is the name for one from the Bharata race, right? But we have commentators and we have sub-commentators and sub-commentators on sub-commentators in the Shastram. There is a sub-commentator called Shankarananda. Shankaracharya is the commentator, is a Bhashakara. But there is a sub-commentator called Shankarananda. He says Bharata has to be broken into two words, Bhaha plus Rataha. So Bha means Atma Vidya, Rataha means the one who enjoys, and the Bharata is to be taken as the person who always enjoys Atma Vidya. So this is the meaning given by Shankarananda. But a simpler meaning is one from the Bharata race, one from the Bharat Vamsha. And therefore, what we have to take away here is Titiksha is the one word which is Upalakshanam, which is a representing the entire sadhana chatushtaya, which we studied in Tattva-bodha. I am not going to that again. I hope you recall what exactly sadhana chatushtayam. There are 4 aspects, and one of the aspects has 6 more aspects. All those remember when you say Titiksha. Okay. Any question?
So matra has to be taken as sense organs over here. Matra.
Yeah, I explained in the last class. If you haven't, you'll have to see the last class. I give you the derivation of matra.
So ये भारता का फिर से बताएंगे क्या था एक वो जो
Bha is knowledge, so Atma Vidya. Bha is light. Bhasyate. So light. And
Rata
Rata is Ratihi, one who enjoys. You have people called Rati, right? Rati is the one who enjoys.
So, sir, one
Yeah.
so you endure these things, okay? So till what point of time this should be endured? Does Krishna say anything about, once your capacity is over, and when is that capacity is over? How to understand that I'm enduring too much?
Endure till it goes away.
Oh, okay.
That is the meaning of endurance. So matras, that's a very, very valid point. But the point is, that is a viewpoint which says that I will suppress. How long can I suppress? The understanding here is not suppression, please. Understanding here is understand it, and therefore your reactions will decrease.
Right.
So I gave you the example of the dog in one of the classes, right? When the dog barks, you can get irritated about it, right? But if you think about it, what will you understand? What is the understanding that comes when you figure out the dog is barking?
very nature of dogs. So
It's
why
the very
get
nature of
disturbed?
the dog. And what is nature?
Can't
Call
be
something
changed.
You
nature
can't change.
when it cannot be changed. So if the dog's barking is its nature and you cannot change the nature of the dog,
Mhm.
what is the conclusion?
Then don't get disturbed. Accept it.
Acceptance is the only solution. So when you accept, then the disturbance goes away. Remember that when you don't accept something, resentment will be there, disturbance will be there, all sort of things will be there. First thing is to accept. So that's
Okay.
why titiksha.
Right. So how do we understand for what causes it is okay to endure and for what causes should we rebel? For example, we fought for freedom, right? We didn't tolerate British and all that stuff. So how do we understand that this is sufferable, this is okay and this is not okay?
A good question. But we are talking about spiritual over here, right? So
Okay.
your standard of, judgment of acceptance or non-acceptance is going to be different. In Gita itself, that is why Gita itself is built on a battlefield, right? Krishna is not
Right.
telling Arjuna that you suffer. Have
Mhm.
titiksha toward what Duryodhana is doing. Did he say that?
No, no.
No. So you have to understand in the context. Where your duty is concerned, that duty has to be carried out. Where your mind is concerned, titiksha is necessary. Titiksha is the
Amazing. Yes.
internal world. Duty is the external.
There are few lines like give me strength to change the things which I can change and to endure the things which I can't change. So maybe
Yes,
this is the
Tagore,
essence.
Rabindranath Tagore.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is all derived from here only. And nowhere in the Bhagavad Gita does Krishna say that tolerate what you need not tolerate. Tolerate? If you can't change, what can you do but to accept? The whole purpose is your mind should not be disturbed. Remember, it's a sadhana for jnana yoga. You have to come to Chitta Shuddhi. The whole purpose of this Gita is to ensure that you come to Chitta Shuddhi. So everything is aimed, has only one question you have to ask. Am I able to keep my mind controlled without disturbance? If I am not, then I need to take some action. Okay, let us go to the next verse. So please unmute yourself. We will chant. Yam hina vyathiyandyete
Yam hina
Vyathyate
purusham purusharshabha
Purusham Purusharshaba
samadukha sukham dhiram
Samadukha Sukham Dhiram
amrutatvaya kalpate. Okay, so now let us look at the grammar part of this. Yam hi. So vyathyantiyete has to be broken into two words. Vyathyanti plus ete. Vyathyanti plus ete. Purusham purush arshabha. Sama dukkha sukham dhiram saha amritatvaya kalpate. And the Anvaya is He Purush Arshabha, comma, Yam Hi Purusham Ete Na Vyathiyanti. Yam Hi Purusham Ete Na Vyathiyanti, comma, Samadukha Sukham Dhiram, comma, Saha Amritatvaya Kalpate. So, Sama Dukkha Sukham Dhiram, comma, Saha Amritatvaya Kalpate. He Purush Arshabha. Arshabha is a bull. Hey Purush Arshabha, O bull among human beings, O most prominent among human beings, among men. That is what it means. That is the address, Sambodhana. Hey Bharat Arshabha, Yam Hi Purusham, for that person whom Ete refers to these contacts and the experiences arising out of the contacts. So ete here refers to sukha dukkham, shita ushnam. Etehe na vyathiyanti, do not trouble. Vyathiyanti is to trouble. So that person whom these experiences do not trouble, and therefore how is he? Samaha sukham dukkham. He is the same samaha. His mind is the same in dukkham and sukham. In pleasure and pain, his mind is the same. He views pleasure and pain with the same equanimity. Dhiram. So dhira here is not valor. It's not brave. Dhira is very often used in Shastra as a viveki, as discerning, discriminative. Therefore, dhiram, he is a discriminating person. Why? Because two things. One is that experiences do not trouble. And two is because of that, he has a same view, samadrishti towards both these things. And therefore, saha, that person, amritatvaya kalpate. He becomes free, or he becomes fit, kalpate, becomes fit for amritatvaya, for immortality, for freedom, he becomes fit. Okay. Right. Now, let us look. This verse is an explanation of which word in the previous verse? Look at the previous verse.
Titiksha.
Titiksha. This verse is an explanation of the word titiksha. So, yam, this person, etehe, these experiences. What are the experiences? Those dvandvas, those pair of opposites. Sukha, dukkha, shita, ushna. And again, when you take that, always remember what I told you about Shankaracharya. Sukha, dukkha are actually what disturb you. They are not, integral part of heat and cold, of Shita and Ushna. Because Shita and Ushna can be a source of comfort or discomfort depending upon the circumstances. And therefore, it is Sukha Dukkha which disturbs you. That Sukha, that Dukkha arising out of the environmental constraints under which Ushna and Shita are being experienced. So, etehe, these experiences, he na vyatyanti, indeed do not disturb. The he is for emphasis. Indeed do not disturb. And therefore only, sama dukkha sukhaha, his mind is the same in both the cases. Such a person is called a titikshuhu, something like mumukshuhu. Titikshuhu means one who practices titiksha. Titiksha is what? The ability not to react immediately. Not to, to act, not to react. Everything and anything should not irritate me. The neighbor barking, the phone ringing by mistake in the middle of the night, a calling bell when you are sleeping. So this ability to ignore the inconvenience to oneself and look at the circumstances objectively, that is very important, because when the endurance is less, we get irritated very, very quickly. Irritation alone, remember, becomes verbal violence, and irritation and verbal violence also become physical violence. So ultimately, lack of endurance, lack of titiksha alone is the cause of all my problems. Right? So a very great example of this is when I am driving down and I'm in a hurry, right? And suddenly the traffic light turns red. What will happen? Honk, 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 honk. So that is not going to change. The honking is not going to change the red light. Red light will change to yellow and green when the time comes. Without understanding that, I keep on honking. And therefore Krishna says, without titiksha, there is absolutely no possibility of Atmagyan. Okay, so if you remember the stories of the Puranas, or even all those movies which you see on Rama and Krishna and olden days, the Shishya goes to the Gurukula, right? the guru will say that, okay, for some time you tend the cows, you cut the firewood, etc., etc. Even in these Japanese stories, the student goes to the master to learn something, learn karate, for example. What does the master say? You build a wall. The student spends 1 month building the wall. Then he goes back and says, Master, I have built the wall. What does the master say? Take it down. One by one, brick by brick, you take it down. All this is for what purpose? Does he have patience? The teacher is trying to figure out whether the student has patience, whether titiksha is there. And once titiksha is there, then the teacher will say, okay, now you deserve the teaching, I will give it. And therefore Krishna here says, Sukha Dukkha, one who is calm and tranquil, he alone, Sama Sukha Dukkha, only the person who is tranquil, he only is fit for the knowledge. What is the benefit? The ete, the matra sparshaha, navatyanti, they don't disturb him. They do not irritate him. Right? Why not? Because he is objective. Okay. Being objective, remember, should not be taken as being a stone. A lot of people think that if you study Vedanta, you stop reacting, no emotions are there. Nothing could be further from the truth. The Vedantic Shishya, when he sees a beautiful flower blooming, he appreciates. He appreciates the flower. He enjoys the flower. When the rains come and the fragrance comes from the ground, he enjoys the fragrance. Vedanta does not mean appreciate. Do not appreciate. That Vedantic, in fact, appreciates much more. And so when these beauties of nature are revealed, the Vedantic Shishya is the one who appreciates them the most. On the other hand, when the beautiful flower falls away, fades away, when the rain turns into the summer and the ground is hard and broken, he accepts both. He accepts the flower blooming, he accepts the flower fading. He accepts the fragrance of the rain, he accepts the dust of the summer also, without complaining. Right? Why? The flower has to fade, so it will fade. The winter has to go, so it will go. The rains have to go, so it will go. So agate swagatam and gachatam na nivarayet. Situations will arrive, situations will go. Arrival he welcomes, departure he does not resist. Therefore only samadokkaha. Towards every favorable and unfavorable situation, his mind views that with equanimity. Such a person enjoys a mind fit for Vedantic inquiry, because a disturbed mind cannot study Vedanta. And therefore, if you are worried about what is happening around you, your mind will have lots of complaints. A complaining mind cannot look into itself. That is the trick. A complaining mind, an irritated mind, how can it arrive? How can it do an inquiry into itself? And how can it arrive at the truth about itself? And therefore Krishna says Saha. Saha here is the person who has got samatva, who has got the equanimity, who has got the shock absorber in the mind. Such a person, he will be a person who is able to do a proper inquiry. Why toughen the mind? Right? So it's why say the mind has to have a shock absorber? Because if you ever driven in a bad road, you will know that your vehicle is going up and down because of poor roads, right? And you have two options. One is to repair all the roads on which you travel. Every road on which I'm going to travel, I will make sure it is smooth. The other method is to fit a shock absorber in your vehicle, which is more realistic. And therefore, you can't change every person around. You can't change the neighbor. You can't change your milkman. You can't change a bus conductor. You can't change a vegetable, dealer. You cannot change a shop owner. They will behave as they will behave. Why all these external people? You cannot even change your spouse or your children. You cannot change their behavior, their character, but you can do one thing. Strengthen your mind. Make it like a shock absorber. Mind will still react, right? It's a mind. It's not going to be not reacting. Every mind has thoughts, and that is what we call reactions. Mind will react. But you will be able to manage that reaction. It is never possible for your mind to be totally free from all reactions. That mind is a dead mind. But if you can manage that reaction, then we are making progress. So anger will come. Sometimes, especially in the beginning stages, anger will come. But make sure that when I get angry, I don't go around shouting. I don't go about abusing. I don't go about breaking things. I don't go about throwing things at my partners. Yes, anger is there, but it is handled with restraint. It does not consume me. If there is a valid point, valid reason for my getting angry, that I can communicate in a restrained, dignified manner to the person with whom I'm angry. Ideally, if you have understood the person, the anger won't be there. But especially in the beginning stages, anger will be there. And even for the best of people, sometimes anger will be there. But the intensity of the anger should be low and the duration should also be less. And there is a quote in Sanskrit, what we call Shubhashita, which says, Uttama Shana Kopasya Madhyame Ghatika Dvayam Adame Syat Ahoratram Papishte Maranattaka. So Uttame Shana Kopasya, the most refined mind, Kopaha, angry for what? Shanam, for an instant. So Uttame Shana Kopasya, the mind which is very refined, Uttamam, does get angry, but for an instant, Shanam. Madhyame Ghatika Dvayam. The mind which is not so refined, but which is slightly refined, somewhat refined, so Madhyame, medium mind. Ghatika Dvayam. Ghatika is an hour. So Dvayam Ghatika means it's angry for 2 hours. Then Adame Syat Ahoratram. The low form of mind. Now, there are 4 separate quarters here, so I can't say lowest. Adame normally means lowest, but here it has to be taken as lower. Adame Syat Ahoratram. Syat, Adame Syat. It is angry. The lower mind is angry. Ahoratram, for the whole night. Papishte Marana Antaka. Until he dies, until the body dies. The sinner, Papishte, sinner. So that is the lowest mind. He is angry for his whole life. So very, very telling little verse telling you which of these classifications does my mind fit into, right? It may be Papishte today, but my spiritual teaching, Vedantic study, must move it to Adame, and then to Madhyame, and then to Uttame. And if I can reach Uttame during this lifetime, that is a very major achievement. And therefore, Titiksha, remember, does not mean complete freedom from any disturbances. Complete freedom from any disturbance of the mind, it doesn't mean. Titiksha means the capacity to manage my own emotions so that I can have a mind which is relatively quiet and I can sit down to study Vedanta without disturbance. At such a mind, he says, Kalpate is qualified. Kalpate eva, you have to understand. Alone is qualified. For what? Amritatvaya. Now here, Amritatvaya does not mean, moksha itself. So it's a relative meaning. So Amritatvaya here means you have got Chitta Shuddhi. Your mind has become eligible for Jnanam. Why do we say this? Because it is Jnanam alone which gives moksha. Titiksha is not the primary sadhana for moksha. It is necessary sadhana. or it is not sufficient sadhana. So necessary sadhana means you have to have the tiksha before you come to the next stage, which is Atmajnanam. Atmajnanam alone gives you moksha. Okay. Now,
Acharya ji,
yeah.
you said something about a bull, a word which you said,
Purusharshava.
asardha.
Purusharshava. Bull is
Can you
simply what, in a bunch of cows, the bull is the leading person, right? Dominant person. That is the analogy used. Bharatarshava means, oh, bull among human beings. Oh, most prominent among human beings. That's what he means.
Thank you.
Okay. Now let us look a bit deeper at some of these words. At these words. So we said sama, dukkham, sukham. Sama drishti. Cold and heat are not the same. Right? We all know cold is not the same, heat is not the same. They are completely different things. How does Krishna say that you should look upon it as one? After all, the moment I say happy and sad, comfortable and uncomfortable, am I not describing two completely opposing situations? You see what is happening? And Krishna says sama. You should see them equally. But if I see uniformity in completely opposite ideas, Krishna might say it is wisdom, but most people will say what? There is delusion, right? If you are saying day is the same as night, is there not delusion? So what is talked about is how can there be samatvam here? And that's why what I explained earlier. The nature of the experience are completely different. There is no doubt, right? Day is different from night. Happiness is different from unhappiness. So the nature, the samatvam is not in the nature. This description is at what level? At the objective level, at the level of the experience. But what about the level of the mental response? The mental responses should not differ. The experiences being different, the mental responses should not differ. That is the meaning. Okay. So somebody said, how long should I endure, right? Now, if I have, let us say, a bad boss and I quietly suffer while mentally cursing the boss, is this titiksha?
No.
No.
No. So this is the basis to this. It is not whether you're enduring. The normal word enduring has a negative connotation, right? You are suffering it. So endurance is taken as suffering, quietly suffering without saying anything. That is not what is required. And therefore Shankara makes a little addition over here in his commentary. He says you have to, for titiksha, you have to add harsha vishada rahitam. Harsha rahitam, no excitement. Vishada rahitam, no depression. Which means what? There should be a basic cheerfulness in every circumstance. Whatever you are facing externally, in the objective world, whether it is a comfortable situation or an uncomfortable situation, in your mental world, there should be a basic cheerfulness. Why? Because any strong emotion will cloud your buddhi, and therefore, Arjuna, may you work towards a samabuddhi. This is what is said. Okay. So even though we have got 10 minutes, I will stop here because the next verse is one of the most crucial verses in the Bhagavad Gita. It will take some time to explain. And if I start this today, then we'll lose the connection in the next class. So nasato vidyate bhavaha, na bhava vidyate sataha. Very, very crucial word. And Shankara's commentary itself runs into several pages. So we will not do that today. I'll leave this open for any questions.
So,
The Sanskrit shloka you mentioned, Uttame Madhyame, could you repeat that?
It's the Shubhashitam, you'll find it anywhere. Anyway, I'll repeat for you.
Okay.
Uttame kshanakopasya. Uttame kshanakopasya. Madhyame ghatika dvayam. Adame syat ahoratram papishte maranantaka. Takaha.
Thank you.
so
Yeah.
in two verses that we did today, Arjun has been called as Kaunteya, Bharata, and then Rishabhas also.
Purusharshaba.
Purushasha. So is there any reason that he keeps calling him differently, or just like that?
In the old days, people were called many, many names. It was unusual to have somebody with only one name. And very many of these names are descriptors, describing a situation. Okay, Bharata, for example, means a person who is of the Bharata race. Kaunteya means son of Kunti. Then Purushashva means most prominent among men because he's a warrior. You will find there are plenty of such, names. It gives us an advantage because with each of those names, our understanding of the language improves slightly. How Sanskrit words are derived, that becomes obvious when you look at these words. To that extent, they are very useful for us. But otherwise, the significance, in fact, for Krishna also, he says Janardana, right? So Janardana is Jana Ardhana, one who punishes the wrongful people. So for each of these words, you'll find as we go on, I'll try to explain each of these words, each of the names I'll try to explain. You'll find they're a fascinating indicator of our own scripture, the way it moves, the way it has derived things. And sometimes it explains the environment at that time. That's why all this is very important.
So I have a question.
Yes,
Now, Titiksha, could you just give me an example how to understand Titiksha? I mean, is it something to do only with my mind where I have to make it even more tolerable and patient?
Yes.
Okay.
So tell me, what is it which you dislike most today? Or disliked most today? I know it's early morning, but maybe you disliked something before 8 o'clock. So did you?
I can't think of it.
Okay.
No, I can't think of dislike as.
Or yesterday? Where did you have a strong reaction?
With some person.
Person,
Because of
thing,
their,
object, event, anything.
yeah, some behavior it hurted me and I did not like it.
Sorry?
Because of someone's behavior, it hurted me and I did not like it.
Okay.
So that led to anger and irritation.
So that is exactly what I said. Titiksha, lack of titiksha leads to anger. And the thing is, somebody behaved in a way in which he behaved, whatever it is, right? Now, how would you say, where did the anger come? Outside you, inside you?
Inside.
And who is responsible for what is inside you?
Myself.
Exactly. And therefore, you cannot say that his behavior angered me. You have to frame that sentence correctly from a Vedantic point of view. You have to say, I allowed his behavior to disturb my mind. There's a world of a difference in the framing of those two sentences. Somebody doing something to irritate you is one thing. You allowing somebody's behavior to disturb your mind is completely different. the locus of responsibility has shifted from the other person to yourself. When it is within you, then you can choose not to get disturbed. That is the tiksha. You can't change the world around you. You can choose not to get disturbed by the world. That is the tiksha.
Sir,
Yeah.
sir, the word why? What does
Amritatvaya, for the
Amrit?
for Amritam. Amritam is immortality.
So immortality is Atmajnana. I mean, like knowing that the self
Not
is.
in this case. In this case, he says Amritatvaya kalpate, for is fit for being immortal. He doesn't say it becomes immortal. Amritatvaya bhavanti has not said. The words are very important. He is fit for becoming immortal means he is now adhikari. He is eligible to get Atmajnana.
So fit for becoming immortal here for moksha.
Immortal means moksha.
Okay.
I have a question.
Yes, please.
So, how to bring this mental cheerfulness if the environment around you is constantly negative or abusive?
You have to strengthen your mind. There is no other way.
Okay.
When you say environment is abusive and negative, you are shifting the responsibility back outside yourself.
Okay.
Exactly the opposite of what the world tells you, right? Vedanta tells you everything upside down.
Right.
Acharya ji, in Tattva Bodha, the words which help me a lot is FIR, what Nidhaji taught.
We'll come
So
to
I
that. We'll
apply it to
explain that.
small. Yeah.
Those who have done Tattva
Yes.
Bodha would know FIR. But here, of course, we'll come to that when the relative verses come.
Raviji?
Acharya ji?
Yes, Sumana, go ahead, then Satya after that.
Yeah, so in Tattva Bodha, we talked about doing tapas in physical, tapas to build endurance. Now, in a physical format, building tapas, maybe trying to fast so that my physical endurance gets better is easy to do, easy to understand. Could you say something about how to build this mental tapas that everybody is talking about? Like we are all in that frame where we don't know how to build it, how to build this endurance. How is it different from?
It is not different at all.
Yeah.
In fact, it is easier. It is probably easier in the mental plane because in the physical plane, the body limits you, right? You can't say I will go and stand in the Uttarkashi in the middle of winter for 10 days. You will die. Right. So there the body limits you, but here the mind does not limit you. Mind has no limitations. And therefore, it's easier from the point of view of the mind. You just have to ensure that your own expectations from everybody is coming down. As long as you got expectation, you will get disturbed. I often use the word, like, why don't you get disturbed when the dog barks at you? Because you don't have no expectations from the dog.
Yeah.
Why do you get disturbed when the neighbor barks at you? Because you have an expectation that he will speak to me nicely.
Yeah, the closer we get, the expectations rise.
So whose fault is that, having expectations? Therefore, your expectations need to be tempered. Wherever there's expectation, there will be disappointment.
So reducing expectation is mental tapas.
How to reduce is a good question, but then you need to reduce. You constantly be aware of your mind, how it functions.
Okay.
Yes, Satya, you were saying something.
Om Raviji, I have this in my mind for some time now. I think today we had time, so I thought of checking with you. Now already we are touching 9 o'clock. This is, why Bhagavad Gita has been given to us from a, war ground. Why it cannot be in a ashram or in a beneath a tree or somewhere else? Why it is on the
Well, if you can be on a battlefield and your FIR can remain low when you're killing people, then in any other activity of your life, it will remain low.
Okay, I'm not getting it right.
You take the worst possible action and then keep your mind under control. After that, Anywhere else, your mind will be under control. It's as simple as that.
Got it. Thank you. Thank you very much, Raviji. Thanks.
So, okay, with this we'll stop. Let us do the prayers. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Om Tat Sat. Om Namah Shivaya. Thank you for your
Om
patience.
Tat Sat. Om Namah Shivaya.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Raviji.
Thank you, Acharya ji.